This is some real pretty shit now, man.
You finished?
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over. What the fuck are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do?
Ace Podcast.
Blood and Black Rum Podcast presents Aliens. Hey guys, it's Ryan from themoonsdeadworld.net, and I'm joined with my co-host Martin.
How's it going?
And you're listening to the Blood and Black Rum Podcast. Do a little bit of a different intro, mix it up a little bit. It gets stale when you're doing the same thing over and over again.
Throwing an old curveball.
That's right.
An old Uncle Charlie.
Exactly. So we're back today. Today is Alien Day, 4/26 when we're recording. So when this episode actually hits iTunes, it's going to be a little later than Alien Day, unfortunately. But it's just the way that our schedule is lined up this year. We record on Wednesdays, if anybody wants to know the behind the scenes. And then we post our episodes up for a Thursday post. If you follow us on iTunes, you know they always pop up on a Thursday. You're ready. You're like, yes, this work week has been shit. But then Blood and Black Rum Podcast got a new episode on Thursday, and that gets me through to Friday. And then you realize you work Saturday and Sunday, so that sucks. But so we're back. We're on Alien Day, and obviously for Alien Day, we had to do the one movie that Alien Day is based on, where it gets the number 426 from, and we've never done it on the podcast before. So we're doing Aliens today.
Why didn't I call it Aliens Day then?
Yeah, you would think they would. They would call it like Aliens Day. Yeah. Just because it comes... And honestly, that is a very odd and specific thing that someone came up with. They're like, you know what? In Aliens, there's this colony called LV-426. So we're going to name 426 Alien Day. It's a very obscure thing. I don't know where it specifically came from. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me because in both Alien and Aliens, there's a whole lot of numbers thrown out there. Could use I think there's like a 709 in Aliens as well. Why isn't 79 Alien Day? Why has it got to be LV-426? Obviously, that colony sucks ass. If you see it in the film, it's constantly rainy, foggy, windy. No one wants to live there. They probably wanted the xenomorphs to come and invade their colony and get us the fuck off of this rock.
James Cameron shot in Seattle.
Yeah, exactly. It's the Seattle of space colonies.
Expect to see Pearl Jam out there, you know.
Yeah, that's right. The Pearl Jam's holding a concert, and Xenomorphs stopped for just a moment.
I did laugh that they actually had a sign posted on the colony, like it's some kind of old western town, like Hadley's Hope, population 156.
Oh, did they have that? I didn't see that.
Yeah, they had
a population sign?
Yeah, they had a sign like Hadley's Hope.
I gotta say that
population.
In all of my travels, I've never really seen a population sign like that. I've never seen a town that has a specific sign when you cross the border into from one town to the other. Do they really?
I think Fonda when you're crossing the bridge from the thruway.
That may be true because they also just have a sign that says Sawyer Fredericks, home of Sawyer Fredericks or something like that. So apparently they are very, proud of their town, and they want to.
Maybe it's a Midwestern thing.
I think I mean, like I said, I've never seen that specifically because just think of all the things that you'd have to do constantly, especially even living in a small town. Fuck. Mrs. Thompson had another baby? Well, we gotta update the sign again. Oh, no. Put that in the budget.
No, that'd be because every 10 years, the census. You just update it with the census.
Yeah, I just think the logistics of it, coming in.
When I think about it, it's funny, too, because it's when you went to college in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And the one year I went to go out there and visit you, when we were crossing the New York border to Massachusetts, the border's right at the top of the mountain because we were going through the Berkshires.
Right.
And the border's right at the top of the mountain. But when you're crossing the Massachusetts, there's no real sign that says, like, you're now in Massachusetts.
There is one, like, towards the top where there's an outlook. There's, like, a...
I mean, it was foggy, but, I mean...
you probably missed it.
But you couldn't really see it. The only way we could tell we were finally in Massachusetts is when we got downhill, the route signs were square, and, you know, just square with numbers instead of having that little sign thing, and everything was named Colonial.
Well, yeah.
But... on the way back going to New York, as soon as you hit the top of that mountain and you're heading towards the New York sign, there was a sign that was like 60 feet big that said, "Welcome to New York, Empire State, 55, buckle up."
Yeah,
which it was like funny because going downhill, that road is twisty, turny, and windy with no guardrail. And they're like, you can go 55 down here because on the Massachusetts side it was 40, and so it was just funny. It's like, welcome to New York. Buckle up.
That's definitely how you know you're in the Massachusetts section because you're going 45 and there's never any 55s in Massachusetts besides on a highway. Like on an actual highway, it's always 50. There's no 55s.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, it is very strange. There's no, there's no 55 that's like a posted speed. It's always on the highways it's like 50 and then I think it jumps up to 65. I don't know if they really have a 55. Yeah, it's weird. But anyway, we digressed quite a bit there. We're covering Aliens today for Alien Day. And as I said on the previous episode when we said that we were going to cover this, I've never seen it before. So it was something like I've seen Alien.
Shame on you.
That's right. Shame on me. It is really because I think most horror fans really have experienced both Alien and Aliens. I have seen Alien many times. Multiple times, I should say, not many. And Alien 3, I've seen quite a bit. That one I'll say I've seen many times. And I've seen Alien vs. Predator. But I've never seen, I had never seen Aliens. Never seen Alien Resurrection besides, like, first couple moments of it on TV sometimes. And I haven't seen Prometheus. So it was an experience, to say the least, because I've heard things about Aliens. Obviously, a lot of people like it.
It's considered probably one of the greatest
action horror films of all time. It's right up there in James Cameron's canon too. I mean,
what doesn't he do that's not great?
Well, he's got 4 more avatars on the horizon or something like that. So I think we can count those in the not great column until we've actually seen it.
After, he said he's going to do like 5 avatars, but, after counting all that money after Avatar and Titanic, he's probably like, why bother?
No need to. No need.
Yeah. Why bother? My house is made of money.
That's right.
He literally just lives in a house that's made of money. Like, why bother?
And Bill Paxton died. He probably has, one of his staple actors. What are you going to do?
Show must go on.
Yeah, I guess so. So, we're covering Aliens today. But first, we're going to take a break and hear from our sponsor before we go into our beer talk. Our sponsor today happens to be us. It's the Blood and Black Rum Podcast. Because we recently just made a new t-shirt design for all of our listeners. You can find the t-shirt design on teespring.com, or you can check it out, and this is probably an easier link, on our website at bloodandblackrumpodcast.wordpress.com. There's a sidebar on the site that has a link to the shirt, and there's also a menu option on the top of the page as well, where you can click on it, and it will take you to that Teespring website where you order it. Now, this is a campaign, so all of your t-shirt orders will be funded, but it runs on a 3-day basis. So if you're ordering within those 3 days, it will take till the end of the campaign for that to ship out. With that said, it's a pretty awesome design, and if you are a fan of the Blood and Black Rum Podcast, you'll definitely want to pick one up. Not because we're making a lot of money off of it, we definitely aren't, but because it's nice to have some advertising out in the world and to know that you appreciate what we do on the Blood and Black Rum Podcast and you want to wear it and proudly display it. So it helps us with advertising, and we want to see you out there wearing it. If you do end up picking one up, please take a picture of it. We'll share it on our website. We'll share it on Facebook and Twitter. So let us know if you do end up picking up one of those, and we really appreciate it. I hope you'll wear us on your chest. Wow, what a great sponsor!
Sounds terrific.
Dreamy voice,
Handsome.
that's right.
Charismatic.
Good dudes. So definitely check that out. All right, so we're on to beer talk today. I recently picked up a new beer pack that we've had once on the show before, this brewery, but it's not one that we really get all the time. It's not around that often, there's not a lot of packs available for this.
Especially a variety pack.
Yeah, variety pack. This is actually the first time I've seen a variety pack for this brewery, I think. And I had to get it.
Which is weird because we get Brooklyn up here quite a bit.
That's right. But, I mean, I think this was a lot smaller.
I know, but it's Bronx Brewery, by the way.
Keep it a secret.
Shh, don't tell anyone. But, yeah, we've done Bronx on here before. We've done their Rye Pale Ale, which we thought was really good.
Yep.
I'm not sure what year they kind of started up, but
Yeah, I don't know.
just last year we started kind of getting their Pale Ale and their Rye Pale Ale in packs up here, little 6-packs.
Yeah.
And but you said,
Oh, it's 2011 they were established. It says
So-
right on the can. So I'm assuming that they probably did a lot of local stuff and then finally branched out
got like a
to
bigger
yeah.
canning. Yeah.
That's right.
But yeah, so you said you had a variety pack from them today.
Yep, got a variety pack. It's their spring pack, because it does contain a spring ale in it that they make, and that spring ale is really interesting. You had it today.
Mm-hmm.
I had it in the past. It's a pale ale that has tea in it, so it has chamomile and black tea, and it's an interesting brew. If you're looking for something just a little bit different, it's definitely one of those beers that you want to check out. I like it quite a bit. I think it has a very interesting taste to it. You still got that pale ale flavor with the hops. It's not super heavy with the hops, but you're also getting that there is a florally taste to it, but I would say that even more so, the chamomile doesn't come out as much as like a black tea flavor, like almost like an iced tea sort of flavor to it.
I mean, I don't understand the point really of adding the chamomile. If you're gonna do like a black tea, you might as well just because it's gonna overpower like what a chamomile tea has to offer. I think it's good. It does have like a nice pale ale hoppiness to it, but it also has a smooth, dark black tea taste to it.
Yeah.
It's good, but at the same time, it is weird. Like, I don't think necessarily it pairs as well as, say, when we talked about before from the Beer Fest, like the Sam Adams Chai IPA. I thought that worked really good. The spicy, it's like the cinnamon spice from like a chai tea and the hoppiness of the IPA. I thought that worked really well. I think this, though it's discernible and it adds something different and not bad, it's good. I cannot see myself drinking it often. It's good, but at the same time, it's not something that I'd find overly refreshing.
See, I liked it quite a bit, actually. A lot more than you, apparently. I don't like chai, so that chai IPA from Sam Adams, I definitely did not like that. I just don't like that flavor from the chai. The spicy, like, I don't know what it is. Like, is it like a cinnamony, nutmeggy sort of thing?
It's cinnamon,
going
nutmeg,
on. Yeah,
like
there's
just spices
the
galore.
Spice. Yeah, it's just not my thing. But like in this case, I liked that it has sort of that, almost like it pairs well as a spring beer because it's got kind of like that iced tea mixed with pale ale going on. I don't know. That's kind of like the taste that I get from it. I think you're right with the chamomile. I think the chamomile is probably underutilized in this beer because you got the hops, so there's already that kind of floral arrangement to it anyway. The
which
chamomile
is a very citrusy floralness to it, so that kind of like just normal like flowery.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
Yeah, the chamomile just doesn't come out that much, but I think the black tea does. I like it. I think it's an interesting brew, and I think that, if you're looking for something a little bit different from a pale ale perspective, that it's one to check out. It's an interesting beer, and you know, I don't know if everybody will like it, but I definitely enjoy it. I think it's one of my favorites out of this pack, actually.
It's a nice, unique.
Yeah, take. A little bit different drink. The other one that we had today, that I was drinking, Martin had a sip of, was their Bronx Banner Ale, which is a golden ale, but really it's a pretty hoppy beer. I don't think it's not specifically like a pale ale, but I think in some way it is kind of a pale ale. It's pretty hot. It's a hoppier,
but not like as hoppy as an IPA.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't hit that range, but I do think it still has a citrusy, hoppy flavor to it, which I also think is very drinkable. As a banner ale for them, I think it works really well. I think it's probably, it makes sense that that's their go-to. That's their hometown brew.
That's a true, not quite pale ale.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Unlike Magic Hat's bastardization of...
I do like that one quite a bit, actually. I think it's pretty drinkable. The other one that I'm drinking right now that's in that pack is the No Resolutions India Pale Ale, which has a lot more hops than their other beers. Definitely is an IPA. At the same time, it has a very heavy sweetness to the back end of it. And I think that sweetness is it becomes a little bit cloying. This is not my favorite IPA. I would probably pick a different IPA if I had to choose. I don't know if this is their best beer.
I thought it was okay. I only had a couple sips from it, but I thought it was alright.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm, for the most part, kind of IPA'd out.
Mm-hmm.
It's just...
Yeah, I think that this one is just a little bit too sweet on the back end.
But what I am enjoying right now, surprisingly, is Shock Top. I do not like Shock Top.
No?
I do think it's better than Blue Moon, but I don't really care for Shock Top. Though I do greatly appreciate the raspberry wheat. Had that plenty of time in college when the few bars that had it on tap. But right now, though, I'm having their Ruby Fresh Grapefruit Shock Top. I love it.
Mm-hmm. You like that?
I like grapefruit beers.
Me too.
I don't, which is weird, because I don't really care for grapefruit and grapefruit juice.
Oh, really?
I think it's way too bitter.
Yeah.
I think it's way too bitter and sour. Like, it's way too tart.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've tried it. Because I had a friend in college who said Simply Grapefruit was the greatest juice ever. And I spent like $5 on a bottle of Simply Grapefruit. Try it. And I couldn't drink it. I had like literally 3 sips from a glass. I'm like, you can have this. I cannot drink this. But I think when you combine grapefruit with something, I think it pairs well. Because like grapefruit shandies, I love. Mm-hmm. They're great. They're refreshing. They're tart. They're bitter. They're crisp. It's got everything going. Same thing with this though. It's not shandy. It's a wheat beer. But I think with the Belgian wheat style, and instead of like normally an orange pairing, I think grapefruit works perfect with this. I think it's absolutely great.
I do think that it's good. I think that maybe I sound like a broken record. Maybe I'm the problem. But I think that it's a little too sweet again on the back end. Just a little bit.
That I'm fine with, like with this though, because it's Shock Top. This isn't like your top shelf like Belgian wheat and
right.
Like fruit pairing. I'm fine. Because it's like when you're drinking a Bud Light Lime. It's sweet. Out of all like the lime paired beers, it's definitely the sweetest. And that's what you like about it. That's like, yeah, it's got that really sweet limeness. Because you don't like Labatt Lime as much. Because
it's true.
Labatt Blue Light Lime as much because it's not as sweet. It's not as limey. It's definitely more beer and like hint of lime. Where, Bud Light Lime is very lime forward. So like with this, I'm fine with it being more like sweet and fruity. Almost damn near wine cooler level, leaning, because it's got such a sugariness to it, because it's what it's going for. That's what it's trying to be. It's not trying to be like, oh, it's beery, but then like a hint of
fruit.
It's like, no, it's going to be beer and fucking the fruit.
Yeah, it's definitely heavy on the fruit. It's like you said, the grapefruit comes out, but it's not super bitter like a juice. You know what I mean? Like,
and I think, like I said, I think that alone is what makes it pair well. You get all the great aspects of a grapefruit, but like not the negatives.
That's true.
So,
yeah, I mean, I know that my wife, she was the one that bought this. She didn't really like it that much, but you know, I definitely think it's a drinkable beer.
no, I like it a lot.
Yeah, and that's surprising. I'm really actually surprised to hear you say that you like it a lot.
Well, I know. Well, like I said, normal shock top I don't like, but the raspberry wheat, I mean, I haven't had it in years, but from what I remember, I enjoyed. I thought it was really good. But then again, it's like the same thing with like you can compare these beers to like Harpoon's UFO series.
True.
Which is a better Belgian wheat beer, but they pair the fruit well. Because although their standard UFO is a Hefeweizen, I don't really like Hefeweizen, it's still a good beer.
Right.
But their raspberry UFO is fantastic.
Yep.
The grapefruit UFO is fantastic, so I like these. These are like great, like refreshing beers. Like if you want to like go away from like a norm on a summer day of, you know, cream ales and light beers, this would be something like, you know, you don't want to spend extra money on like a Leinenkugels for a shandy, but you still kind of want that same thing. You can go with this.
That's right.
So,
all right. Well, we're on to Aliens then. Might as well get this show on the road. It's been a while since you've seen Aliens, right?
quite a while.
Yeah. So it's kind of I mean, did you remember a lot of it?
Like the key parts that most people remember, yes.
Well, and with that said, like even though I've never seen it, I obviously know, you know, Game Over Man. I know I've seen the, you know, clips of the final part.
The robot suit fight.
Yep, the robots. Obviously, I had the action figures. I had the
Gotta sell them toys to those kids, you know.
Yeah, I had the Xenomorph and I had the whatever the robot is called. I don't know what that. I can't remember what it's called, but it's just like a loader. I think they just call it like a loader or something like that. I had that, which was always really cool. So yeah, I've seen that part, and obviously, let's see what other. And pretty much them like coming through the vents. Mm-hmm. You know, like in the top part of the vent, where they don't know where the Xenomorphs are, and they're above them. I've obviously seen that. So really, I feel like I did see like a good portion of the movie just by knowing it from pop culture, from what you get. I mean, I wouldn't say that Aliens is a very complex film as a whole. It's not really. There's not a lot here where you can't get from a trailer or reading a quick synopsis of what's going on. Like that's basically the gist of what happens in Aliens.
I'll say it's not the plot's not what matters.
Exactly,
it's the journey.
Right, exactly. But I'm just saying, like, as a film itself, like if you were to boil it down, it's really not that difficult to give a one-line synopsis about what Aliens is. After a space colony goes quiet, a team of colonial marines and Ripley from the first film set out to figure out why everybody died, and then find a whole host of aliens living there. That's pretty much it. I mean, that in a nutshell.
The Thing in space.
Yeah, really, pretty much.
Well, actually, that'd be more the first Alien, but
yeah, Thing
in space.
But again, though, I do think that The Thing is pretty similar to Aliens as well, because there is that comedic aspect in The Thing that you get from like the beginning of the film.
The setting.
Setting, yep. Like you said, when we first get to LV 426, it looks a lot like the compound in The Thing. A lot.
Yeah. Expecting Kurt Russell to like come like stumbling around.
That's right.
Which would have been great. Just think about it. Just think about it. Not saying Sigourney Weaver was bad or anything, but just imagine if instead it was Kurt Russell as your hero. Oh! God, sign me up.
Mind blowing. No, I know, but you're right. It is the journey. that brings us through Aliens. And I think that for the most part, the film is really successful at porting over the original film's suspense in that horror aspect of being pursued by a giant alien that you really don't know much about. You don't know how it operates, really. You don't know what it can do. In this case, in Aliens, they know a little bit more about what they can do, but there's still a mystery. Like, they haven't really explored and identified what makes up the genetic disposition of the aliens. So I think that it still transfers over to this film. But at the same time, they've really added a lot more action elements to the film, but something that we really don't get a lot in the first film. In that film, there's a lot of brooding. There's like moments where the crew is just in space, living their life in space, and they're not really they don't know anything that's going on. In this case, they're suited up, they're ready. The Colonial Marines are sent out to LV-426 because they know that something is wrong on the colony. No one's reporting back in. You have Ripley, who has been in cryostasis for 56 years or something like that, coming in and saying, yeah, there's aliens around, and they have acid for blood, and they impregnate you. So they kind of know what's what. So they're going out, and they're locked and loaded, really. So I think that adds that action and atmosphere to the film that James Cameron does so well within this film and others that he did at the same time. I think that I think I prefer Alien just a little bit more. And I know this is probably a controversial opinion, and like a lot of people have differing views on that, but I think I like the even more minimalist aspect of Alien more than I do Aliens.
I think, as I said before, I think the perfect comparison is Terminator 1, Terminator 2.
Mm-hmm.
Alien and Terminator are much more your typical horror films. Where Alien's more like, like a sci-fi, as you said, brooding, kind of just generic, like, horror film. I don't mean generic in like a bland sense, but like, I'm trying to think of like what kind of denomination of horror you'd put it. Like creature feature.
I mean, yeah, kind of in a way.
Like sci-fi creature feature horror film. And Terminator 1, as you said, is like basically a slasher film.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in T2, it's an action film. There's no horror aspect to it at all. The difference between like comparing Terminator 2 and Aliens is Aliens, though, most people consider it an action film. I really wouldn't. I would still say it leans much heavier towards horror. But I think those action elements change it up enough and change the overall tone enough to where it does have that comparison. I can see why more people, lean towards like Aliens, just like the same reason why more people lean towards Terminator 2 than Terminator 1.
No, I absolutely see why a lot of people would enjoy Aliens for what it is, because it's obviously I shouldn't say a lot, and it's often more lighthearted than Alien. It's got a lot more comedic timing to it. Like obviously Bill Paxton in here is meant to infuse the film with that sort of humor that you really don't get in Alien. There's a little bit of joking at the beginning of Alien when the crew are all, waking up for the first time, doing their duties on the ship. But for the most part, once Alien gets going, there's not very much humor in it at all. And it's mostly about running away from the alien on the ship. Whereas in Aliens, the entire, I would say almost like the first hour of this film is devoted to exploring LV-426 and building the character up.
The character and the scenario.
Yeah. And a lot of that has to do with the Marines being Marines, really. They're meant to be sort of a
roughnecks.
Right, roughnecks, and they're obviously a foil to Ripley, who is very serious throughout most of the film. Not like will not have any fun because she knows what she's experienced, and obviously it's had an effect on her.
And it's compounded by the fact too that she, when she's being like interviewed and questioned about it, they don't take her seriously. They think she's full of bullshit.
Right.
So all the Marines are like, oh yeah, it's gonna be easy and this and but she's sitting there like, you don't know what you're getting into, and so you have that aspect of them being like, oh, is this another bug hunt? Which made me think of like Starship
Troopers, yeah.
Which I'm guessing pretty hard. Paul Verhoeven did take quite a bit of.
Starship Troopers is based on a novel.
No, I know it is, but
yeah.
I mean the aesthetics, though.
Yeah, the aesthetics,
and the armor, the guns, like. I do think Aliens influenced that. I know it's based off a novel, but I haven't read the novel, but I'm assuming the novel didn't go into detail of those certain aspects. And if they did, I imagine they changed it up to kind of fit. Because again, like I said, the armor, like the being like colonial Marines and like going on a bug hunt.
Yeah.
That's very...
Well, you know, I definitely, I think that Aliens does a good job of setting up the plot for the most part within that beginning portion of the film, because while I do feel that Aliens has a very generic plot where you have one guy that seems to be the nice guy but ends up being the bad guy businessman, like that's a stereotype, standard 80s action scenario. Like, this guy's good, but oh wait, no, he's fueled by money. Like,
no, but you can tell though he's like kind of slimy throughout the entire thing.
You can, but
you can tell his like mode. You can, and that's another like trope though. Like,
exactly.
You can tell that like he's being nice because he wants something.
Obviously, that's Paul Reiser playing the very slimy businessman guy. But like I said, I think that's a very standard scenario within these types of films, is that you got that one guy, and obviously at the beginning he's playing it up really nicely, even kind of making fun of some of the other Marines when they give Ripley a hard time, and then later on in the film you find out like everything that he's been telling her is a lie, and he's going to do whatever he can to make sure that he comes back with things that will give him money.
Like, I know, it's great because she specifically asks him before she signs up, like, you promise we're not going to bring any of these things back, that we're literally going there as like a search and destroy. And he's like, oh, you have my word. It's like, yeah, he's
bringing them back.
You know, he's full of shit. He's the guy in Jurassic Park 3 who thought taking the raptor eggs was a good idea to like, oh, I thought we could bring them back and like study them and make money. Fucking asshole.
But I think that for the most part, the setup in Aliens is really good because you have that initial meeting with Ripley at the beginning of the film when she's thawed out from cryostasis, where they bring up her daughter. And her daughter's dead. Like, she's been dead because Ripley's been frozen for nearly 60 years, and she doesn't realize it. And then...
Well, that's kind of weird, though, because they said their daughter died at the age of 66. You think in the future...
They would be prolonging life?
Well, that's why I'm curious. What killed her?
Yeah, I don't think they ever say.
No, they didn't. They just said, she died.
She died.
Yeah, she's dead.
Well, maybe Paul Reiser lied to her. That could have been a lie, too. You never know. But I think that it's a good setup because later on, even though that the film never really explicitly dives into this, there's obviously that mother-daughter bond between Ripley and Newt. And I think that it in some ways it works better than the original Alien because there's at least some sort of motivation for Ripley at this point. Without Newt being on the colony, she probably would have just been out of there.
Would have said fuck everybody.
Exactly. You wouldn't really have a movie at that point because you would see Ripley figuring out, okay, yep, this colony's been overtaken by xenomorphs.
Not just one,
which was hard enough to kill in the first film, but many. So I'm fucking out of here. If you guys don't want to come, that's fine. And obviously we know that the ship is a Russian nesting doll because it has ship upon ship upon ship upon car upon. So there's many vehicles to take out into space. So I think without that you wouldn't have a movie. But at the same time, like it's definitely a nice bond that they share. And I think that the film does a good job of creating that mother-daughter bond. I think Newt is, even though she's really not much of a character, there's not a lot of times where her specifically is a character besides what like a secondary plot device. I still think it does a good job with motivation and giving Ripley something to do.
Yeah, I think it's nice. At the same time, I don't. I don't really care for the child acting. It's not great.
No, it's not great.
But I'm not blaming the child. I just think that's kind of I always find that to be kind of a terrible plot device type thing. Just to kind of we'll just shove a kid in there and oh, she survived 30 days in this, just crawling the tunnels and eating Twinkies.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, she lived in a garbage bin.
Yeah, it's
so. I guess it makes
all
sense.
these xenomorphs that have colonized this planet essentially are smart enough to figure out how to get around the power system and the doors. They can't track down one living girl in a garbage chute.
True. Doesn't make much sense.
I'm not again not blaming the girl for it. I'm just saying that's just
yeah.
It's the same thing. Again, I know it's a terrible movie, but Jurassic Park 3 with the fucking kid, no, I covered myself in T-Rex shit. Was able to sneak around, grab some candy bars. I've been living in this dumpster, waiting for help for 3 weeks. Because
yeah, it's true. It's a stretch.
And then William H. Macy showed it.
No, but like I said, I think that the plot, while simple and somewhat generic for an action film, I think it does a lot with what it has. But I really think that some of the standout things within Aliens is, for one, the setting, which is actually really well done. A lot of times when you get...
For 1985, it's great.
Yeah, a lot of times you get films like this that revolve around running around what's supposed to look like a big, colony or a giant building this is, what they're running... Basically, is within a giant nuclear reactor. You get the feeling that this is really on a soundstage. This is something that they've created, and you don't necessarily understand the makeup of the tunnels and how it looks, the layout of it. But I think in this case, within Aliens, it's a very successful method of doing that. At the same time, I do think it owes a lot to Alien, because Alien also had that very successful layout to its ship, and this copies that a lot. It copies the sort of metallic rung setup of that original Alien film where they're running and you can hear them running on metal rungs and stuff, which actually became a trope in itself
for sci-fi
within the 80s and for sci-fi 80s and later.
Just for ship design, yeah.
Ship design, not even just with spaceships, but with underwater films like Leviathan,
Deep Blue Sea,
stuff like that. You see the same sort of setup, if it works in space, it works down underwater too. And I think, it was a very influential piece of horror for these types of science fiction movies. I think it's really interesting to see it in play. I think it works really well in Aliens, just like it did in Alien.
Yeah, no, I think the set's really great. I agree. I think this and The Thing are two films with their set design that kind of... A lot of people are that's what we gotta fucking do.
Right.
I think the whole look of the film is really good. Though, I mean, you can tell there are a bit scenes where there's an explosion and it's a green screen. I mean, it's not bad, but when they're on the set and the detail they put in, it's really good. It looks like they spent a lot of time crafting these well thought out sets to set up the film, and no, I think it's great. I think it's a really great looking film. Obviously it's iconic. 'Cause again, just think of all the media and pop culture that's been influenced by the setting, the design, Dead Space, the game is Alien.
Mm-hmm.
Aliens, except
Absolutely.
the aliens are like, more like zombies.
Yeah.
But like the whole like premise and like set design is based off of this.
Exactly.
So
it really is.
Yeah.
And I think some of the moments where Aliens really shines with its setting is, as I mentioned before, when they're locked in their room and they know that the aliens are coming from somewhere because they can see it on the monitor, that they're coming from somewhere, and then they eventually find out that they're actually coming from the vents in the above them. Really great use of the setting, because at that point you've had enough time within this area to know kind of the ins and outs of like how you get through airlocks and where the hallways are in the setup. But there's never a time in that scenario where you've ever really seen above you. So
at the same time, though, you see them below you.
True.
And you see it's all like these grates that can be lifted up.
Yeah.
And like there's access tunnels underneath.
There is, yeah.
So it makes sense above, which, by the way, that's the one thing that kind of bugs me. It's like, man, that's just like seems like poor design. To have everything be like just grates that like, oh yeah, there's like 4 feet of access tunnel above and 4 feet of access tunnel below.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
What do you need that for? I don't understand. I mean, it makes for a great setting, but I mean, it is kind of foolhardy when you think about it.
That's true. But I think that's one area where this film really excels. There's a lot of tension out of that scene specifically, especially if you're coming into this film not really knowing about that part of it where they're coming from above. I think that's probably, at the time, that was a pretty tense, suspenseful scene when no one really knew that was going to happen. Obviously now that's kind of pervaded into pop culture. Yeah. I think most people know that happens in Aliens. But in this case, it was really successful. But obviously we can't talk about Aliens without talking about the H.R. Giger designs, which, I mean, we're in Alien as well, but Aliens, I think, has even more of that style of design from Giger's artwork and, costume design, because you're seeing more aliens. You're seeing more xenomorphs.
Yeah, it's much more accentuated, kind of like detailed, though they do a good job too for most of the film keeping all of that hidden. They very rarely focus on like the whole xenomorph until you get to the end, especially with like the queen at the end.
There's a lot of quick cuts away from
very brief looks at them, so you don't get to see them in full detail until like you get to the end when you finally hit the climax, which is
it's a good idea because they only work so much if you see them in sort of a shadowy mode. Like once you kind of, especially because these xenomorphs were played by people in suits. Like you can't have them clearly out in the open, because then that kind of gets rid of the shadowy mystery behind them. The way they move, the kind of like stilted and skeletal methods that they use as their body movements. If you have somebody out in the open in the xenomorph suit like that, it just doesn't look as realistic and effective as when you have them kind of cloaked in the darkness. And this film uses those at advantageous times where they're not there and then they're there. Like when they're all in the lair and you don't
really see them at all.
You don't see them because they're all crawling on the walls. They blend into the sort of
the background.
Yes, the sweaty
hive cocoon.
They blend into that. So I think it's really used well, and they don't overuse the shots of the xenomorphs where they become sort of stale or you get used to seeing them. But I have always really liked Giger's designs anyway. But I think that his xenomorph designs are really intricate, and they have their own sort of internal makeup to them that makes sense to this alien species. Because we were talking about it during the movie, but they have the xenomorphs have a very strange reproductive system. Not something that we really don't see in most animal species that I can think of, is that they have this queen alien, who lays eggs, and the eggs contain face huggers, and the face huggers then impregnate humans. The humans incubate the eggs until they become new xenomorphs. So there's kind of that, the face huggers are really like a different kind of interspecies there, that once they're born, they die off and they give rise to the xenomorph creatures. It's an interesting reproductive cycle that they have that I guess in a way mimics sort of like the caterpillar.
Going from a
Caterpillar to butterfly, or, you know, something like that, where there's a pupa stage and a cocoon stage, something like that, chrysalis stage. That's what it kind of reminds me of, but at the same time, it's a very interesting.
Because that's from the face huggers, then going like into the host, and then being, you know, chest bursting out. It's not. It doesn't seem like that would be that's the face hugger that's in it. It's the face hugger
eggs
or something.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, like, very well, because again, as I was telling you, like the Aliens is such a fan base. It has such a rich backstory now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's been explored somewhere.
Probably, I'm sure somebody has.
In some book.
I hope there's like
a comic or game.
I hope there's like a romance fanfic about it. It's just like, this is how it works.
But I mean, I'm sure it's explained somewhere in there, like in a comic or a game or a book. But I've never like gotten into that deep into the lore.
No, I haven't.
I am interested now to, like, you know, to kind of look into that. But I mean, it's at the same time, like, you know, if you're just going off the movies, you're like, yeah, that is weird, you know. It's kind of a
it's an odd species thing that happens, and it doesn't really explain it. I mean, they go into it a little bit, but I don't even think, like, in this film, our protagonists know that much about aliens or facehugger, the xenomorphs or facehuggers. They don't know much at all. Like in this Bishop, who is played by genre hero Lance Henriksen,
might as well be Brett Spiner.
Yeah,
he, like, the Bishop reminds me so much. He could have been like that. Like, Brett Spiner saw Aliens. He's like, that's what Data's got to be for Star Trek next time.
Probably.
You know, like
yes, but. You know, in this Bishop is dissecting the facehuggers because they don't really know anything about him. They have never had experience with them. So, like, I don't even think in this film that is possible to be explored. They kind of just go with it. They're like, yeah, well, I guess that happens. You know, they become chest bursters, and that sucks. So just keep them away from your mouth so they don't impregnate you.
I mean, like, you get that dichotomy, though, like, where they don't, when Ripley's describing her encounters of what they do, because, like, oh, that doesn't seem, you know, pregnate humans and their blood's acid. You know, that's ridiculous.
Party businessman laugh.
Yeah, I know, and then they, you know, dismiss her, but at the same time, they know it's real, because, you know, Burke, you know, Paul Reiser, my bad.
Mad about you.
Yeah. But, I mean, Paul Reiser, he knows it is real.
Yeah.
So obviously they all know that they exist. They all know Sigourney Weaver's not fucking bullshitting them. They're just trying to downplay it so she doesn't, like, go off, like, on a hysteria, you know, like, on, like, a publicity tour, like, you know, because their whole business is colonizing and terraforming worlds, and it's a big multi-million-dollar, which I told you I laughed at. I'm like, it's the future. They're saying it takes decades to terraform and build these atmosphere things. It is not a multi-million-dollar try multi-billion-dollar, you know, project to fucking do that. But I mean, that's not like a big nitpick, but it's, like, funny. It's like, hey, you know, come on now. Even in the 80s, even in the 80s, you can dream big enough to, like, the budget on this is going to be past the million.
Apparently, deflation was a thing in Aliens, where everything got cheaper. Terraforming, cheap.
But, but I mean, yeah, so it's like, they obviously know. Now, granted, we know, too, that the Colonial Marines, and throughout going on, like, it's again 57 years. They've been colonizing several different planets now, and they've been running into different life forms because they specifically say, "Is this a bug hunt?"
Right.
It's not. So I don't think they know exactly what they're getting into, like the Marines themselves. But I think the business people know.
Well, they have to, because later on we do find out that Burke had sent the colonists to the spaceship that Ripley had vacated and come back from. So he has to know that there was something there because they brought it back.
No, I know,
but they've been testing it.
But I'm saying, from them saying, "Is this a bug hunt?" They don't know about this. But obviously, they've been on other planets where they've run into, like, oh yeah, like giant alien bug shit that we've had to, like, go through, mop up and kill. And so obviously, because again, they don't, like, talk about this in Alien, like, all, like, the different life forms that are possibly out there. So by now, though,
they've experienced many of them, and
you can gather that just from, like, the little conversations that, like, when they first come out of hyper sleep. So yeah, like, again, I think the film's definitely hinting towards the business people. They probably all know that she's not full of shit. Just, they're just trying to be greedy shit businessmen. And
they know, and they want to bring it back. Yeah, because it's, for some reason it would be
because, again, what makes it, I mean, I don't think Burke would want to do, just go and do it on his own. Because what makes him think, like, hey, yeah, I brought one back, let's weaponize him. Like, you're a genius, here's $1 million.
Yeah, that's the thing that I don't...
You'd feel like he'd probably have a directive, like someone's like, hey, she wasn't full of shit, then stuff's out there. You want that. You want, if they can go out there and, like, control people, we want to...
Yeah. I mean, you gotta laugh at the terrible decision that would be, though. Just seeing how easily it decimated an entire colony of people living on this terraformed planet. You're like, well, that's a in their sense, $1 million operation wasted. Well, let's just bring it back to Earth then. You know what I mean? And we'll test it there because it went so well testing it on what was it, 120 something people?
156.
100 something colonists. That went so well, it just went right through them. So, we'll bring it back to Earth, and I don't know. It is funny. That plot scenario, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but you chalk it up to greedy businessmen not recognizing the error of their ways.
Sitting there just, like, rubbing their hands, like, yeah, money.
The money that we could make on this, yeah. But I mean, I do like how Ripley even comments on, like, how it's just about the percentage, just about, getting that money back, making sure, we can't nuke the planet because it was fucking expensive.
I know, because, he's like, let's nuke it. Like, yeah, let's nuke it. And he's like, what? Paul Guys is just like, whoa, we spent multi-million dollars into this,
Yeah.
Oh, it's like, oh, you're right.
Yeah.
We should let these things just,
live on this. Yeah, what difference does it make at that point? Fucking infested with aliens? Okay, but we'll leave it because it was...
Especially now that almost your entire Marine squad that went in there has been decimated. You only got fucking Bill Paxton running around going, game over!
Yeah, it's
in a fit of hysteria. Yeah, the three Marines and you and Ripley, you're gonna hunker down against a colony of xenomorphs. Good, get out while you still,
Exactly. Well, one thing that I also really love about this film, and by love I mean that sarcastically, is that when Ripley goes back to save Newt from the xenomorphs who have taken her back and are apparently going to impregnate her at some point, she's putting at risk not only herself, but also Bishop, who I guess is synthetic, so she doesn't really care. She doesn't even like synthetics that much because
she's warmed up to it.
She has warmed up to him
from what's happened.
And then the other guy, which is Hicks. So she's like making that decision for them. Like, well, I'm going in.
Well, no, Bishop's like, no, I gotta go. But no, Hicks does say we're not going. So he was on board.
I guess he's on board.
He was on board with dying there. You know, she didn't get Newt back, but I mean,
still, that's pretty inconvenient way to die. Just like, well, we could leave, but we're not going to.
Well, you gotta save the little girl. Even in an R-rated film, you can't let the little girl be.
No. She's
mutilated.
She's got to come out alive.
Gotta take that elevator. That's 3 minutes.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's one thing that I do not really. I mean, there's
buildings exploding. Always taught fire. You know, building on fire. Don't go in the elevator.
Yeah,
let's go in the elevator.
That's one thing that bothers me. I mean, there's a lot of unrealistic things about aliens, but one thing that does bother me is that if you count down from when she gets off of the craft and takes the elevator, it takes at least a minute to get down on the elevator, and while she's down there, it's like 14 minutes to detonation, and the detonation is going to be like 40 kilometers or something like that, something like very large. So she's got to find Newt, and then get back up on the elevator, and then take off with the spacecraft, and then get out of range of the blast within 14 minutes. So you got to allot 1 minute for the elevator at least.
The second time up was 2 minutes, like going up.
Yeah, and then you've got to give yourself probably like a minute or so to at least get out of blast range. So you're talking like you've got like 8 minutes to save Newt. And I don't believe that the entire scenario in Aliens where she goes to find Newt, she finds Newt, but oh wait, now there's the queen.
And
now
all the
she's
eggs.
and all the eggs. Now she's for some reason blasting at the queen with the grenades when she knows the entire base is going to explode in less than 10 minutes. So there's no point in doing that because you might as well just let her blow up with the base. So you do that.
Now you think about it. All she did is piss off the queen. If she just took Newt and ran, the queen would have been sitting there shitting eggs. Yeah. None the wiser.
Exactly.
The place is going up in smoke.
The reason why...
But instead, she pisses it off, and it follows her in the spaceship, and essentially butchers Bishop. And
yeah, because the reason why the queen goes after her in the first place is because she shoots a bunch of grenades at the queen, and then the queen is like, fuck this, I'm gonna ditch my placenta or whatever she's got going on. She like rips it off of her, and then goes after her. But that wouldn't have happened if Ripley had not like torched all those eggs. Just leave them alone. Just leave it. Just run away. Because they're going to explode anyway. But I don't believe that entire scenario takes place in 8 minutes.
No. You know, I also think of too, what makes you think that this, I mean, obviously, she said that in like the beginning when they're saying like, well, we've been there and there's nothing indigenous to that, you know, planet, meaning the xenomorphs. And she said it came from a spaceship, you know.
Right.
From the beacon in the first film that they, you know, were attracted to. So what makes you think even if you destroy, you know, the queen and all the eggs, there's not going to be other planets out there with xenomorphs on them?
Oh yeah, I mean there definitely would be more planets out there.
You're gonna have a lot of mopping up to do.
Yeah, because
Starship Troopers bug hunting is gonna want, you know, you to join the Space Marines now to, you know, mop them up. So
well, I mean, ultimately, I think that Aliens is a film that's against extraterrestrial, like terraforming and like creating colonies out of these places, because obviously you're going to have those unknowns. You're going to have that like, you know, something could be lurking out there. So I don't know I don't think it's truly like emphasizing like galactic imperialism or something like that. You know what I mean? It's not really open to that. I think it's more so like you gotta be careful about where you're expanding into, because there could be things lurking out there. Is there a bigger thematic thing within this film than that? Is there anything else that this film is getting at besides...
Don't be a greedy shitbag.
Yeah, don't be a greedy shitbag, because aliens will come and get you. You know, mother-daughter bond, obviously.
Very important.
But other than that, is there like anything thematic that resonates from the aliens being on this planet, and you have colonists attempting to take over the planet? Is it that inevitably we always taint what we try to colonize? I don't know. I don't really know.
I don't know if James Cameron's going that deep. I'm not gonna.
Yeah, I don't think that aliens. Like,
I am not gonna be like, wow, like,
yeah,
George Romero sitting here talking about the evils of consumerism and materialism and Dawn of the Dead. I'm not doing that in this film.
I mean, I think that
I don't think. No, I think that's totally.
That's what I mean when I say that Aliens is fairly simplistic in its scope. It's not really. And I think covering anything.
And I think it's in simplicity too. Though you can gather a lot of things, like wow, and come up with such a deep thesis, about like what the message is. I think it's just trying to be an entertaining, Yeah,
I agree.
Entertaining popcorn flick.
I think it is an entertaining popcorn flick. I think it does that very well. A lot of good action scenes in here. Although, like you said, a lot less than I expected and what you remembered.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, I think it does a good job with most of it. Besides some of the obvious green screen effects, which I think one of those that's very off-putting is the one where she's shooting grenades into the Queen's lair. Yeah, that looks very bad.
You can tell that's like music video bad.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Some of the fire explosions and things like that, flying off into space, another one that doesn't work very well. But obviously, you can accept it for what it is, and within this film, I'm surprised, to be quite honest with you. I didn't really realize it, but Alien and Aliens are 9 years apart.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. 7 years apart. I didn't realize that they were so far apart.
Yeah, it was quite a while.
Quite a while from Alien to Aliens. All right, so which one do you like more?
Like I said, I would agree with you. I would say Alien. I just like the horror aspect more. Like I said, I think that Aliens is more of a horror film than an action film.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely does have action elements to it that add like that. And it definitely has that 80s action sense of humor. And we didn't even really talk about any of the actors that much. I mean, we kind of briefly touched about it. But I mean, Bill Paxton's totally hamming it up in this.
Oh, yeah.
All the Marines in this are totally hamming it up. From, down the line, corny, over the top, but at the same time, it's very enjoyable.
Yeah, but I think that's one of the reasons why I prefer Alien, just because that sort of campiness to this film is pretty much endemic to a lot of those 80s action.
I agree. I think again, obviously Bill Paxton's a standout because he's very over the top. But I do think Sigourney Weaver's very good in this. I do think Lance Henriksen as Bishop, he's phenomenal.
Yeah, he's really great.
He plays a very good
robotic,
but not but again, he is an android, but at the same time he does have his little quirks to him. He's not totally just a bland I'm a robot.
Right, yeah, he's humanistic too, but he has sort of that programmed humanistic.
So he straddles it very well and very good. I think like you said, I think it's I wouldn't say there's any bad acting in the film. But this is where I agree with you. I think Alien I think it's all a tonal thing. And I like Alien's tone more. I like that more, just horror. It's what's out there. It's definitely
it's
creepier. It's
it's more minimal for sure. It allows that atmosphere to seep in,
and the tension to build, and so yeah. Like I said, it's totally I can't stress the comparison enough between Terminator and Terminator 2.
Mm-hmm.
I like with that the same thing. People prefer Terminator 2. I prefer Terminator 1. I think the atmosphere, I think it being like more horror geared and like how it's paced is much better than Terminator 2. I think though Terminator 2 fun and action and great, I just don't think tonally it works. I mean they both work great. I just prefer that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm right there with you, and but I totally see why a lot of people like Aliens more. Just because of that fun aspect to it, because of the action scenes, because you get more xenomorphs.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a lot of alien action, Aliens is a lot heavier on the action than Alien, and so I think that may be part of it, especially looking back. Like looking back on it now after, like, let's say that you saw Alien and Aliens together, you probably would prefer Aliens because that has more aliens in it. It has more xenomorphs. But at the time, if you saw Alien in 1979, and then
we're a fan, yeah.
Yeah, you were a fan, and then you saw Aliens 7 years later, I could see where at that point you would be like, it was okay, but it wasn't Alien. It didn't match Alien.
You would be like the thing is like,
right,
something I would prefer.
I can totally see both sides of it. I think more contemporary viewers might enjoy Aliens more now.
Yeah.
But I can totally see both sides. And I'm not going to fault you if you say you like Aliens more.
They're both great films.
They both are. I really enjoyed Aliens. I think it may be a little long. I think you could cut maybe just a little bit from the beginning and get it at more of an even 2 hours. I think that's feasible.
I do too, but at the same time, I don't think the 2.5 hours really feels that long.
No, it doesn't.
So
I mean, I do think that if we were editing it out, I would edit a couple scenes just to even it out at a nice 2 hours. But I think the pace is really good, and I don't have any problems with it per se. Like some other films where you're like stretching 2.5 hours, and you're like, okay, all right, let's get this on.
Like Batman v Superman.
Yeah, we don't need to bring that up again. Anything else you want to add about Aliens?
It's definitely got so much pop culture influence.
Absolutely. Mention that with like Halo.
Yeah, like just like I said, Starship Trooper, like the designs, Halo,
like with the captain, Corporal Hicks, or not Corporal Hicks, like
the sergeant.
Yep, the sergeant, and you got like not only that, but the spaceships that you mentioned, the sort of the designs.
Yeah, very. Enemy Zero, the whole like Sega Saturn game.
Yep.
Where you like are on a spaceship and you have like a detector that like you can't see these hidden like camouflaged aliens, and you have like it like beeps faster like the closer they are, and you have to kind of navigate around. Like that's very like influenced by this, like the whole design and the kind of premise. Dead Space, obviously.
Probably lots of arcade games, because if you look at sort of the design of the action sequences, they're very much styled as the scrolling arcade games of shooters. Even some of them were Alien did have quite a bit of arcade games, but Area 51 as well. Very much, I would say, inspired by the types of guns and gunplay that's in Aliens. It definitely has some widespread inspiration, obviously, not just from Aliens specifically, but definitely helped.
As I showed you, the great final boss at the end of Conker's Bad Fur Day is a xenomorph, and he gets to fight it in a suit.
One of the loader suits.
Suits. It's great. Comes out of nowhere.
That's right. So, do we have a good Alien Day?
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
I don't know why I don't watch this often.
Aliens.
More often.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know why I've skipped over it. Just kind of happened that way. Seen Alien quite a bit, but I'd never seen Aliens, so it's good to rectify that, though. I'm glad I did. And I did enjoy it quite a bit. So, out of 10 Pulse rifles, what would you give Aliens?
8.5.
8.5? Yep.
I think it's a really good film. Set design's great. I just love the overall atmosphere of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sigourney Weaver's great in it, as always. Yeah, there's not a lot of flaws. I think the few little nitpicks away from it are, I think the tonal shift for me, if just looking back on Alien, is kind of, disappointing. Though it makes sense because it's James Cameron now, not Ridley Scott. And the soundtrack too is really kind of weak. It's very much like a Star Wars.
Yeah, Alien has a lot better soundtrack than this one.
The soundtrack in this is very especially at the end when the colony's going up and they're flying away. It's like, oh, it sounds exactly like at the end of A New Hope, where the Death Star is about to blow and the rebels are flying off. And the way that the ship flies off too, you might as well have had the fucking Millennium Falcon flying behind it too.
Yeah,
but I mean, like I said, there's not a lot of flaws. Though simple, again, it works. Mm-hmm. Simple's not a bad thing all the time. Simple can be a very great thing, and I think the simplicity of this film is what makes it great. And I think the great blend of horror aspects and action is unique unto its own in this film.
I agree. I think I would give it an 8 out of 10. I think the first action scene is a little bit sloppy, just because they're attempting to not show you very much at that time, and I think that it kind of becomes disorienting in its way. And I, like you mentioned, some the soundtrack issues. A couple other things, but I like it, and I think that it does a really good job, and it's a good movie all around, but I do prefer Alien over Aliens. So shoot me. People won't be happy about that, but that's okay. Everybody's entitled to their opinions on the film. But I think I would definitely watch Aliens again. It's on my list now. It's on my list of things. And I think that Aliens is much less action-oriented than even Alien 3. When you get into Alien 3, that's completely an action movie. That's no longer horror at all. Whereas in Aliens, there is that great mix of horror and action, which I like a lot. All right, so what's up next? What's on the agenda for next week?
I don't know. What do you want to do?
I'm not sure.
I have an idea.
What?
You want to do 1 hour photo?
Well, there's that, but you had talked about doing a 90s
horror month.
Yeah. And next month is the start of May.
So okay then.
I think it's the perfect time because we're starting a new month. I think it's the perfect time to do our 90s slasher month.
So what are we going to do for those 4 weeks?
I think that we should start with Urban Legend.
Okay.
Because Urban Legend is one of those films that's very nostalgic because I remember catching it on TV all the time. Very they used to play it during October all the time on TV. Very nostalgic.
Well, you know what we'll do, because usually we keep one of them a secret. I'll say the 3 we'll do right now.
Well, we're gonna do Urban Legend.
I know what you did last summer.
I know what you did last summer.
Jeepers Creepers.
Oh, you want to do that one as a 90s slasher?
I mean, it's very early 2000s, but I think that fits the mold.
No, if it's 90s slasher, you got to do 90s slasher. You can't do
it fits
2000.
I think it fits the mold.
You can't do 2000.
What is it, 2001, 2002?
2001.
Yeah.
So it's not even in the 90s at all.
Yeah, well, it's close enough.
I don't think we should do Jeepers Creepers. I think there's other stuff that we could do besides that.
Oh, well, fuck you.
I think we could do...
I have a field day with Jeepers Creepers.
Something like, we could do Valentine. Actually, that was 2001 as well. Never mind, we can't do Valentine.
Oh, yeah,
Never mind, we can't
look
do Valentine.
Look at you.
I was thinking we could do that one, but we can't. We could throw a Scream in there.
We'd obviously have to do Scream 1. You can't just be like, all right, we're going to do Scream 2.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know. I don't know if I want to do Scream yet, or if we want to do that for like a special. We could do, no, we can't. That's a 90s one as well. I don't know. Maybe we have to think about the other ones that we're going to include, because we want to make sure that they're, I mean, Urban Legend and I Know What You Did Last Summer are two that really stand out for me as ones that we have to do. But then the other two, I'm open for suggestions. So maybe we'll only announce those right now. Figure out what the other two we're going to do, because I'm not sure.
It's still sad that on IMDb for Scream, they still have Drew Barrymore top billed.
Top billed. First build. Well, because she's first build.
Well,
that's...
No, I know, but I mean, again, it's like the secret's out.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think
it's been 21 years.
True. True.
You can move on.
But we'll definitely do Urban Legend next week.
How about Cruel Intentions?
It's not even a horror film, though.
Is it not?
It's not.
It is.
No, it's not. It's not a horror film at all. Not a horror film at all. But I think we'll start with Urban Legend next week, and then we'll go from there. And we'll let you know.
It's been a long time since I've seen Urban Legend.
It's perfect. That's perfect. Well, we could do The Faculty. A little Elijah Wood action in there.
I thought that was like 2001.
Nope, 1998. Could do that. That'd be a fun one.
Yeah, I think we did talk about that too, doing The Faculty.
We have talked about The Faculty before.
Fucking nice Josh Hartnett vehicle.
That's right. So we got those in store. Next week we'll start our 90s slasher month.
It's gonna be exciting.
Could be a fun time.
Get to reminisce, especially if you're our age. You're like, oh yeah,
yeah, I know.
Nice fucking ice pickaxe going.
I know. Well, we'll see you next week. Now it's time for some administrative duties.
Woo.
You can catch us on iTunes. That's where our most people are listening to us. Please give us a review and subscribe to us on there. You can also listen to us on Stitcher or any other podcasting app that you know of. I'm sure we're on there. We have a Facebook page, facebook.com/Blood and Black Rum Podcast. Check us out. Give us a like. We have Twitter @BloodandBlackRum. You can tweet us, follow us on there. We have an email address where you can send us requests for movies that we can cover or any suggestions you want to hear. That's bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com. Obviously, check out our website, bloodandblackrumpodcast@wordpress.com. Like I said in an earlier ad, we do have a new t-shirt out, so check that out. Hopefully you want to wear it and rep us. And other than that, we hope to catch you next week when we start our 90s slasher month. So we'll see you then.
Can we do Varsity Blues?
It's not a 90s horror movie! No Varsity Blues. All right. We'll see you next week.
Take care.